norske myndigheters forsøk på å dysse ned og ikke minst hemmeligholde historier om UFO-observasjoner.
Since the dawn of humanity, we have looked out towards the stars as if compelled by an unknown force, telling us, you are not alone. You are all part of the evolution of the universe, on your way to higher realms of enlightenment. Soon after the dawning of the 20th century, the winds of change began to blow. Events were to take place which would change the course of mankind forever. The atomic age had arrived. As man detonated weapons of immense power, lights started to appear in the sky in a way that suggested that something was following the course of events. The shattering thought imposed itself that we were perhaps not the only inhabitants of the universe. Since the beginning of civilization, we had been watching the stars, never dreaming that they, in turn, might be watching us. History was about to change.
Because these lights appeared suddenly in the sky over Washington on July 20th, 1952, moving from the White House to the Capitol, hundreds of people witnessed the extraordinary event, and it left them stunned. The lights instantly jumped from one position to another. They were also observed by high military officials who knew what the lights were trying to say. The public had never seen anything like this, whereas the military had already a long history of involvement with these alien visitors, but had kept it from the public. An immediate emergency meeting was called to formulate a plan to divert public attention away from the occurrences. From that day on, it was decided to place the subject under the highest classification of security. Then came the first announcement to mislead the public made by Chief of Air Intelligence, Major General John Sanford.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
From that day on, the biggest secret of the century began. How did it all start? After the first atomic bomb was detonated, more tests were made of the effects on the environment and human subjects to gauge the degree of contamination unleashed. No knowledge of the devastating long-term effects existed at this time. Here in New Mexico, an army base close to a small town called Roswell became the focus of attention on July 2nd, 1947, when Bill Brazel, a farmer, found a crashed disc-shaped craft on his land. The military arrived on the scene and quickly isolated the spot when they found debris scattered over a wide area. They also found 4 dead humanoid alien bodies who had been ejected from the craft. Because of many recent UFO sightings by the military, they accepted the existence of visitors from outer space who obviously possessed a technology which was far beyond our understanding. Now, for the first time, they had tangible evidence and were eager to learn its secrets. Roswell was the home of the 509th Bomber Wing, the sole American atomic bomber group. Major Jesse Marcel, an Army intelligence officer, was engaged on the recovery operation and asked Walter Haut, the Army public relations officer, to prepare a story for the local newspaper.
He told me to prepare a release with basically the information that he gave me over the phone. When it was done, to take it into community and hand deliver it to the 4 news media we had in Roswell at that time, which is what I did.
The story was published in the local paper. The news was also prepared to be aired by the local radio, but Judd Roberts, the radio station manager, was warned not to broadcast it. Sorry.
The question that we ran into is the very next morning, some friendly person, probably from Clinton Anderson's office, called us from Washington and said, we understand that you have some information, and we want to assure you that if you release it on this matter, because it's not supposed to be released, it's very possible that your license could be in jeopardy, and so we suggest that you not do it. And he said, when I mean in jeopardy, like maybe 3 days.
Preparations were made at Roswell Army Base for the transport of the wreckage. Robert Shirkey witnessed the secret handling of the parts.
They came in the front door, straight down the hallway, and right out onto the ramp to climb into the airplane. And these were the people that were carrying parts of the crashed flying saucer at that time, UFO today, that I got to see. And that was the only thing I got to see. And it was very short, very quick. Colonel Blanchard, in order to get out of their way, had backed into the doorway of the ops office. And I stepped up to him and I said, Colonel, turn sideways. I want to see too.
On instructions from the Pentagon, Thomas Jefferson DuBose and General Ramey created a cover story saying the crashed object was a weather balloon.
But we used them in order to assuage the curiosity of the press.
The wreckage was loaded back onto an aircraft and flown out under cover of great security and secrecy to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The pilot kept silent for several years, but informed his wife after the story appeared in a newspaper.
I guess now that they're putting in the paper, I can tell you about this. I wanted to tell you for years. He said, I want you to read this article because it's a true story. And I not only know that it's true, but I'm the pilot who flew the wreckage of the UFO to Dayton, Ohio.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was considered the most technologically advanced research center in the United States. The wreckage of the Roswell crash was dismantled for analysis. The matter was considered of such importance that the orders came directly from President Truman. Under the cover of the CIA, Truman created a group called Majestic 12 for dealing with and covering up all information about UFOs. President Truman gave the task of handling UFOs only to the highest-ranking generals. After the Roswell crash, a special group of scientists was formed and facilities built to be prepared to deal with any further UFO crashes which would occur. Wendell Stevens was a lieutenant colonel in technical intelligence in the U.S. Air Force and is now a UFO investigator.
Now having an extraterrestrial vehicle and some bodies in their hands, didn't know when the next one would come down, where they came from, what they were going to do about it. There were a lot of unanswered questions. And the United States was in a turmoil at the time administratively because we were shifting from a war economy and a military-industrial command structure to a civilian structure. So the military was still dominant, and they wanted to keep control of this until they knew what was happening. So they created, and remember, General Marshall was our Secretary of State at the time. He was a 4-star, a 5-star general. These people selected certain representatives from the military-industrial complex that they controlled, generals and admirals and certain scientists that worked with the military and worked with industrial planning. These men were designated as a task force to take charge of any event that followed. And one did. Almost a year later, on the 25th of March of 1978, the next one came down, 1948, the next one did crash, and it came down under observation by radar, so that we knew where it landed at the time that it struck the ground, and a helicopter was over it in less than an hour. It reported what it observed, and the plan generated by these people from the military-industrial complex after the Roswell crash was immediately put into place. All of the generals and admirals and advisors and scientists were contacted and ordered to proceed to a base in Colorado, where they were picked up and driven to the crash site. Now, all of these men have gone to the scene to see for themselves what an alien vehicle looks like, and they were going to advise General Marshall directly, who was controlling everything from remote position from telephones, on how to proceed. And when an operation is that big, you can't cover everything up. We discovered that the owner of the property where the vehicle came down was arrested in his house with his family, and they were kept in the house for 4 days, not allowed to go outside or anything. All the roads in the area were blocked. All access was closed. People that lived close enough to know something about it were kept in their houses. Now, if it never happened, then this evidence wouldn't exist. But now we are finding solid evidence that something strange did happen, and that these events actually took place. Then we found people who observed the recovery of the craft from a distance, that saw the task force moving across off roads over country to a secure military facility at Los Alamos. And with these leads, we were able to turn up other witnesses, all of whom had been sworn to secrecy by their superiors at the time they participated in these events. And only a few of them would talk to us, and only on condition that they not be identified because of their vulnerability. What happens in a case of violation of security oaths of this nature, they could lose all pay and allowances due or ever to become due. They could be imprisoned. They could be fined a lot of things that none of them could stand.
Through Secretary of State General Marshall, the security of the UFO situation was intensified. A closer relationship developed between the military and Majestic 12. As time passed, the power of Majestic 12 grew stronger. Virgil Armstrong was an intelligence officer with the CIA and worked with highly classified assignments. He retired with the rank of major.
I received documents which said that a UFO had landed in the middle of White Sands, New Mexico proving grounds, and that this object was inert, was under surveillance, and would be kept under surveillance until they could determine whether it was hostile or friendly. It later turned out that it was friendly in that the occupants were dead, and when we got aboard, there were 5 bodies. The bodies were diminutive in size, in other words, 3.5 feet. The largest one was just under 4 feet. 2 of them were obviously the commanding officers because 2 of them wore epaulets on their shoulders. Later turns out that they were all male. When we flew them back to Wright-Patterson, of course, the examination, physical examination, and the autopsy, of course, revealed that they were indeed all male.
From descriptions given by several witnesses, the aliens have very large eyes, a small nose, and a small mouth. They are usually about 3 feet 6 inches in height and have no body hair. President Truman ordered a heightened level of security after the capture of a live alien from a UFO which had crashed. Because of the ever-increasing numbers of UFO sightings at the time, it was decided to create a project called Blue Book, which was designed to suppress public knowledge and create an atmosphere of ridicule around the subject of UFOs. Professor J. Allen Hynek was a professor of astronomy and an astronomical advisor to the United States Air Force on their UFO educational program.
And I know the job they had. They were told not to excite the public. Don't rock the boat. And I saw it in my own eyes happen that whenever a case happened that they could explain, which is quite a few, they made point of that and let that out to the media. Things that the cases that were very difficult to explain, they would jump handsprings to keep the media away from it. For they had a job to do, to, whether rightfully or wrongly, to keep the public from getting excited.
A live alien was captured in 1948 after a UFO crashed in America. He refused to communicate for 1 year and was given the name EBE, or Extraterrestrial Biological Entity. He later began to communicate and gave details of his home planet. EBE had a large crystal which he linked to his mind telepathically and was able to communicate with his own race. He was also able to see into the past and future and perform many other amazing feats. He told of believing in the universe as the supreme being and stated that his race lived in harmony without wars and had nearly eliminated all diseases. He said they lived to approximately 800 years of age and that their technology was far in advance of ours. The authorities were amazed by the things they were shown through the crystal. EBE was able to communicate with huge spaceships which were holding orbital positions thousands of miles from the Earth. He told them that their crafts were capable of reaching areas in the universe beyond our imagination, and that they were operated by thought control coupled to biological computers, and consequently did not have any control systems as we understood them. He talked about his planet and how their technology had created a system where everything was self-functional and did not require a workforce to operate it, and that everything was monitored from a central control system. He said that technicians were present there. He said their power source was eternal energy from the cosmos. He told them that his race didn't have a government like Earth, but a society governed by wise elders who sat in council to make decisions of policy. They did not have a monetary system because the needs of the people were catered for by the Federation, which made them all equal. At the request of the aliens, a meeting was arranged with President Eisenhower in 1954. It took place amid tight security at a secret location. At this meeting, negotiations took place regarding the permitted presence of the aliens on Earth. Eisenhower told the aliens that the world was not yet ready for them.
Eisenhower witnessed an alien demonstration of technology and power at Muroc Dry Lake, which is now called Edwards Air Force Base. I believe we made a deal, and the deal was that in exchange for super technology, super weapons technology, we would agree to ignore the abductions that were going on. He made it more military-oriented than, say, a civilian president would have. And it's this, I think, that has let his actions let the real power of the executive office slip through the hands of the president into MJ-12. The President of the United States does not have a high enough clearance to know the whole thing. And it's interesting to note that above top secret, there's 38 levels of clearances. Eisenhower's the last president to have a full briefing on the alien problem. There was a disdain of elected officials throughout the intelligence and military communities, and they just didn't like elected officials. So every president since then has not had high enough clearance to know the whole problem. Now they know there's aliens, they know we've recovered saucers, and they know that we're trying to get technology. But there are certain other things which probably only about 25 people on the face of this earth know.
When coming down to Earth, it ceases to be free space, with systems to monitor every move.
I happened to see flying saucer on several occasions on the radar. I even intercepted with 4 jets in '55, and it was clear to me that the saucers we intercepted could hear what I told the pilots, because they reacted on my instructions to the pilots. It was one day when one of my people in the radar called me and said, Major, I was captain at that, Captain, we have something on the screen which passes with a speed of 18,000 kilometers per hour. Impossible. Nothing could fly with that speed. I went out there, yes. They were passing with 18,000 kilometers per hour. All of a sudden, after some while, they did not pass anymore. They were stationary around the field. And they came and they left without we could see it. All of a sudden they were there. All of a sudden when the sweep came around, they were gone. I contacted the operations officer and the station commander. They both came out and they wouldn't believe me. I said, give me 4 aircraft and I'll intercept them. Okay. Sometimes there were about 20 objects around the field, and sometimes we were down to a few. It was fog, and therefore a lot of people afterwards said, oh, it was inversion, but it was not. It's proven afterwards it could not be inversion, which is a meteorological phenomenon. So at 11 o'clock, I had 4 jets at the runway, and at 11 o'clock, the fog lifted so we could take off. And I ordered the 4 jets to take off. In that moment, there was 12 objects around the field. And when I said you are cleared for takeoff to intercept unidentified flying objects, 10 of them went away. Right when the sweep came back, there was only 2 left. One 10 miles north of the field, one 15 miles south of the field. I sent the 2 aircraft to the north and the 2 aircraft to the south. 2 aircraft to the north came first, and I said, your boogie, which is the object, is 12 o'clock straight ahead. 12 o'clock, distance 5 miles, altitude unknown. Do we have it in sight? Gone. Came the next one. When it came up, I said, your boogie is 12 o'clock, range 5 miles, altitude unknown. Do we have it in sight? Gone. So it was clear they could hear what I said.
But while the visitors monitor our every move with their superior technology, being technically advanced does not always ensure their own safety. This was proved by the UFO crash in the Kalahari Desert in 1989. One of the most documented cases of all time referred to a 60-foot wide spacecraft which was forced down on the border of South Africa. This craft impacted with the desert at high speed, causing a crater 450 feet in diameter and 36 feet deep. Official military documents revealed that the craft entered South African airspace at 1:45 p.m. on the 7th of May 1989 and was intercepted by 2 Mirage jet fighters. Because the craft failed to respond to communication, one of the fighters was ordered to attack the craft with an experimental laser cannon. This caused the craft to lose altitude and crash.
After the craft was retrieved, it was removed to a secret Air Force base. And on arrival at this base, it was found a door had partially opened in the side of the craft. Hydraulic pumping gear was brought to the scene and the door was forced open. When this was done, 2 aliens staggered out of the craft, and it was found that one appeared to be seriously injured. They were immediately arrested and removed to a medical center, where a medical team was sent in to try to assist. The authorities at the scene entered the UFO, and hieroglyphics were found inside the machine, alien hieroglyphics, of course, and various items of electronic equipment were also removed from the craft.
When the military entered the craft, they quickly removed portable equipment and instruments, some of which were considered useful as potential weapons. This was not certain at the time, but was clarified after scientific investigation. Also found aboard the craft were a series of hieroglyphics, which indicated that the aliens had a written form of communication. The writing gave the impression of an alien alphabet, but it is not known if any of the scientists present were able to understand its meaning. Data found on the craft were stored on a system of silicone slides. It was obvious to everybody at the site that they were dealing with a very advanced technology, including the propulsion system. As more and more alien technology comes into the possession of our scientists, more understanding is being gained about the physics involved in producing propulsion systems capable of taking man deep into space.
Although many years have passed since the beginning of the UFO era, the veil of secrecy has remained to keep the public uninformed. Despite the suppression of information, millions of people throughout the world are still seeing and reporting the presence of UFOs in our airspace, and many more millions are now firm believers in the presence of extraterrestrial flying machines. They know that UFOs exist.
I think what has happened over the years, the government has lied so much that they have painted themselves into a corner, and it's almost impossible for them to tell the truth today.
The biggest secret in the history of mankind, and the government is not going to let this out. There is no way to get anything out under the Freedom of Information Act.
In Russia, the subject of UFOs is now out in the open. Marina Popovich is a retired Russian cosmonaut and fighter pilot. During her military career, she was twice awarded her country's highest military order, Hero of the Soviet Union. She is now one of Russia's leading UFO researchers.
10 years ago, people only made jokes about this subject. Now the attitude to UFOs is very positive. The majority, 80%, think there is extraterrestrial intelligence and that this intelligence is trying to establish mutual contact with us. Now cosmonauts and pilots are more willing to report their contacts with UFOs when they have taken place.
Unlike the rest of the world, the Soviet Union has an openness about the subject of UFOs. They even have a monthly television program devoted entirely to it. In the near future, university courses will also be available to study the subject. Several Soviet generals have already stated that there is no question as to what UFOs are. We know they are alien spacecraft.
Technology has advanced rapidly over the past 50 years for all the world to see. But in secret locations, amid tight security, the true advance of technology is hidden from public knowledge. From one such location came the stealth bomber. This futuristic aircraft is the only type known which has the ability to fly into radar-protected areas unobserved, almost without sound, to perform whatever task is necessary. The technology used in the production of the aircraft is a giant leap forward from conventional technology, and the question has to be asked, where did it come from? At one super-secret US government test facility situated in the Nevada desert, strange glowing lights are regularly seen performing aerobatic displays which are far beyond the capability of our known aircraft. They seem to be intelligently controlled. Can this be yet another example of some secret, very advanced technology, or are the authorities hiding some exotic foreign contrivance? Here at Area 51, also known as Dreamland, is the most highly protected and secret facility in the whole of the United States. Bob Lazar, a physicist, worked on special projects within this complex and felt compelled to reveal what he saw.
They are actively and have in their possession alien spacecraft, and they are actively undergoing analysis and flying them. They set up and produce their own gravitational field. Just as the Earth holds all matter down, they produce that same field, but out of phase, and it repels itself. The effects that can cause the way in which everything operates is by all intents and purposes, magic. I mean, it is so far beyond our level of technology.
Why is such technology available only to the few and not to the whole of mankind? Have we the right to know? Are we ready for it yet? Or is the race for technological advantage more important?
Why keep a secret about probably one of the most important events in history, that there's been contact from an alien civilization? It's a significant event in history, more significant than anything.
With the tremendous distances involved, travel to the stars would seem impossible. But with man's endeavor and resourcefulness, these problems will be overcome as they always have been in the past. Scientific estimates tell us that there will be a breakthrough in space travel in the near future. When the boundaries of distance break down, the Earth will become our home, the universe our world. Energy is the lifeblood of civilized society, but it's also a tool that has to be controlled.
They are flying on what we call free energy. They take it out of cosmos and fly on it. And you could do the same with your boat, your car, your machinery. Everything on Earth could be completely free. Do you think that the oil companies and the coal companies and the atomic and so on and so forth would accept it? Never.
Despite our problems, we have gained a new conception of cosmic energy.
Perhaps all the technologies which are being put together at this moment in time are catching up on our alien friends, which I very, very much doubt. But I'm sure that is the reason this technology is being put together. You've got to realize that things are not always as they seem. And once we can get out of this thinking, out of this box we're in, that there is something more than what we are being taught, what we have learned. There are things outside the scope of this. Then I think you'll begin to see the potential for people from out there visiting us. And not just now, not newly visiting us, but have been visiting us for hundreds of years.
Our presence within your solar system is to observe the evolutionary progress and environmental changes occurring not only to your planet, but to its people. Using a special observational technique enables us to foresee potential difficulties which may arise, and if necessary, give you advice on the course of action you need to overcome it.
To achieve these aims, we employ the use of many types of monitoring equipment, each with the responsibility for a different area of scientific investigation. Our use of telemeter discs of all sizes as remote-controlled sophisticated recording and analyzing vehicles is one of the many types of drones. We observe every aspect of your world and its inhabitants, from the environmental changes and pollution levels to the microbiological disease potential of mankind. Our techniques also enable us to record and analyze thought patterns, and therefore anticipate man's course of action before it is taken. There is nothing about your world and its people we are not aware of.
In the last few years, there is an evolution in the whole extraterrestrial problem. An evolution so far that the sightings and the encounters become more concrete. We accumulate more and more cases where we get more and more information. More information is released by the governments. We know now that there was a cover-up for so many years. We have always speculated about this cover-up. Now we have proofs. We know that the secret services, not only in the United States but in other countries, have really fooled the public. And very likely extraterrestrial visitors know about this plot. And it is not surprising that in the last years more concrete information is released. Probably this may be a preparation for official contact. Perhaps it's in the interest of extraterrestrials to establish contact because humankind is in a very difficult position. This does not imply that we must depend on extraterrestrials to save our planets. We have to do it ourselves. But nevertheless, we are in a phase where we possibly take the next evolutionary step, a step that is so important because it will decide whether we will survive or simply vanish.
A circular, shiny object passes in flight. You think to yourself, so the stories are true. What should we do?
I'm absolutely convinced that there is a mutual origin of
humankind, of human beings, and some of the extraterrestrials which come and visit Earth. I have various reasons to maintain this point of view. There is a group of extraterrestrials which are really identical with human beings in their size, in their physical look, and their physical makeup. If we take the reports of witnesses seriously, and I do. There are quite a number of cases where these extraterrestrial visitors have made remarks confirming this point of view. They do not officially land in Washington or in Moscow or in London, but they're simply seen rather unobtrusively in such a way that the media is arguing constantly whether UFOs exist or do not exist. We know that they do exist, at least a small nucleus. And whatever their intentions are, I'm sure there is a development in the last few years that it will not be long until we find out.
Are the spaceships announcing their presence by leaving their footprints in the cornfields? If so, how? The cornfields of England, home of the amazing phenomenon known as pictograms. In 1990, 1,200 complex symbols appeared in southern England. Some showed a remarkable resemblance to carvings found on ancient monuments. One opinion is that they are a message from spacecraft. Another is that it is energy coming from the ground, reacting with energy from space. All agree it is intelligently created and possibly connected to the nearby stone megaliths. The pyramids, one of the 8 wonders of the world, are monuments to a forgotten civilization. But how did they achieve such feats of engineering? And why are there identical structures on Mars? It is said that the pyramids were built by another civilization for the purpose of containing energy devices to exchange cosmic energy. The pyramids acted as a focusing device to focus energy on the planet at the zenith, which is in exact alignment with the Pleiades. Some people have had contact with beings from the Pleiades who told them that they were here to help us. When asked, "Why do you help us?" they said,
"We would like to tell you about the importance of cosmic law, to live by it, not to neglect it. The greatest gift to yourself is to understand yourself through cosmic law. In our world, we give our children this understanding so that they will have a richer life. We come from throughout the whole universe, and we will reveal ourselves to you more and more until you come to understand the universal language."
My first encounter, I was determined, if it took me the rest of my life, I was going to find out that day what I had seen that day, and I have never let up from that moment in time. And it has been worth every minute and all the money I've spent on it, because now I am a far wiser person than I was when I started. I know things now which I would have never known had I not got involved in this thing. That there is a far higher force out there operating than we could ever conceive. And that they're here amongst us. They come and go as they wish. They are watching us, guiding us, and directing the direction we go in. Of that there is no doubt.
Elizabeth Clara is one of the most important alien contact cases of all time. She was born in South Africa in 1910 and is a woman of great wisdom. Between the years 1954 and 1963, she had many meetings with another race. One man, whom she called Akon, told her that he was from the solar system of Proxima Centauri. She developed a deep friendship with Akon. He took her on a 4-month visit to his home planet of Meton, 4.3 light years from Earth. Meton is a world with 2 suns. She was told that space was a big laboratory and was given great knowledge about the universe. She understood the structure of the cosmos and the laws of light frequencies immediately, and as requested, she passed her knowledge to science, where it was of great benefit. She later went on lecture tours and wrote a book where she shares her insight into the structure of the universe and passed on highly valuable scientific information to the world. She said, "The road to the stars unfolds within a spaceship of great beauty and simplicity, generating her light from the cosmic plasma of eternity, never faltering, always alive and pulsating, shaped like a galaxy with a halo surrounding her and the shockwave glowing. We are embarking on a dialogue for which a common language has yet to be created, and which, when in full swing, will pose questions we have never ever envisioned, not even in our wildest dreams."
There is life elsewhere, and therefore an extraterrestrial civilization to which we stretch out our hand evermore, whose attention we wish to attract, and with whom we wish to make contact. I am convinced that we shall be able to make contact on a broad basis. After all, there are already very many who have. And this contact between people is just as important as that with the universe.
On her many journeys into space, Elizabeth Clara learned that Archon's race lives in harmony of body and mind, which is the foundation of healthy existence and responsible for the elimination of disease. They know that most diseases are caused by emotional or psychological stress. Archon told her that all cosmic neighbors looked at our world with watchful eyes. They see that the natural world is dying through the imbalance which we are creating in nature, reducing the resources we live on, and they are out there waiting to help. When asked why they didn't come more often, they said, to come here, we have to make many kinds of adjustments to the body because we are uncontaminated.
This spacecraft was seen coming out of the sea near the Canary Islands. UFOs have been repeatedly seen rising out of the water throughout the world. It is known that they are using their advanced systems to help the world to decontaminate areas of high pollution. For instance, green fireballs are appearing in areas of high radioactivity for the purpose of neutralization. Many contactees are told that help for the Earth by our alien friends is allowed, but only to a certain extent, because they cannot interfere, since we all have a free will. This is a cosmic law.
Life in our own planet is different to what you experience on Earth. We have long overcome the negative aspects of aggression, jealousy, and power. Although we are very advanced by your standards, we lead a simple life of love, mutual respect, and harmony, each integrating with each other in a like manner, conforming to the cosmic law of mutual harmony.
Our family unit is the integration of like souls, which is a form of higher love beyond your comprehension. Children are born of these family units to evolve into even higher levels of understanding. Partners are not tied to each other as with your earthly rules. The merging of auras of the twin souls is a bond of such love and understanding that rules are not necessary. We do not have rules as you understand them. Law is a code of conduct. We do not require a code of conduct as you perceive it. Age is of no consequence to us. We merely exist in this form for a term of many times your lifespan, and are then reborn to a higher level. Our harmony with our environmental surrounding is absolute.
Elizabeth Clara was brought to our planet by Archon as a step towards bringing understanding to your race regarding the life and ways of cosmic neighbors. The mutual love which existed between them was a natural harmony of souls. Archon could not have lived permanently on your Earth because of your contamination. Our recreation is very different from that on Earth. We do not have sports of violent physical contact and do not participate in anything which creates rivalry. one great enjoyment is to use our brain power, either singly or jointly, against what you would call computers. Our music is a combination of vibrations, colors, aromas, and visual effects. But unlike yours, it is of a meditational nature.
It was very, very difficult. There was no easy way of finding an answer to something like this. But it seemed to me that things naturally came my way. I started to receive reports from people as it became known I was interested in this subject. I received reports in growing numbers until I was receiving reports in hundreds. And then the net spread, and it wasn't to a local area, and then it went to the whole of England, and then slowly but surely it spread until the world came in, and information was being fed from many, many directions, and many, many people helped. And as this information grew and grew, the fact that there were solid objects and other type of objects flying out there, there were other intelligences, became very, very real. There is a wealth of information, documented and otherwise now, of the real existence of these entities, aliens, whatever you wish to put the name on them. The problem is, in our society, there has been a very, very well orchestrated aura of ridicule imposed on society, so that people who were seeing these objects were afraid to report them for fear of ridicule. People in positions of responsibility saw these things, and many have spoken to me, but they always speak in hushed tones behind closed doors. And when you ask them why, they say, well, if I was to make this public what I had seen, I would lose my job. This is the syndrome which has been among society for many, many years. There are more people all the time coming forward. We're beginning to break this mold of ridicule, and the reports are coming from all manner of people. I've had them from doctors and pilots, from military personnel. You name it, I've had it from them. And it's like a snowball. It's gathering momentum, it's gathering size. And it will not be long before all the population realizes that these are out there. We are not the only people here. And when the realization of this comes to the front, then I feel that we will all be lifted on a higher level spiritually.
Man is beginning to respect the universe and the laws of the cosmos. Therefore, he will learn a great deal faster.